No, I'm not complaining. I mean, I found the roads to be totally drivable and not dangerous. So I just noticed the difference.
Well, if you look, you might see the sand on the road after it's dry.
Yeah.
Because it's good areas. They just plow it at the end of the storm. They just
No, we're going to start without them.
let it work.
We're going to go through the FEMA thing. I'm just waiting for 6:30, 6:29.
Huh?
6:30.
That's a long salt to about.
Hello?
Salt doesn't really go.
Hello?
Well, reconstitutes the same amount.
It's 6:30. We're going to convene a public hearing in a moment. I'd like to explain one thing. I welcome you all here anyway. It's great to see everybody here for public business. It's terrific. We at the planning board spend some lonely nights over there, and this helps make up for it. There are two separate public hearings tonight, and we're going to conduct them as such instead of running them as one hearing. And the first one is going to be the very brief one that concerns FEMA regulations that you'll find in a copy in the front. They're somewhat self-explanatory. The lined out items are what FEMA has required us to change in our existing ordinance. And there were highlighted phrases in there are additions to our existing ordinance. And we have to comply with this by just around the town meeting time in March, which required this public hearing and you all to be informed of this, so that we don't lose our federal floodplain insurance. We have two residents that are in the floodplain down near Tucker Road, so, or at least I think so. There were. The point is, we have to comply with this and add this to our ordinance. I think it is March 22nd or something like that. We don't have much time, and if we don't put it on this town meeting agenda, we won't be, that federal facility won't be available to us. So anyway, so that we're going to start with that one. So that hearing is now convened. It is now 6:31. George, would you do a roll call for the planning board members?
Yes. Gary Ciccarone,
Here.
Rick Charette,
He'll be here momentarily.
Steve Machowski,
Here.
Ed Nason,
Present.
Jim Freeman,
Here.
Rob Collins,
Here.
Clifton Camp,
He phoned me and said he would be here probably at 7. He was stuck in traffic behind an accident. So.
Ed Camo.
Here.
Okay, we have one regular member who's not here.
Okay, we have two sign-in sheets up front. Anyone that wishes to speak at either one of the public hearings, I would request you to come up here, and it would probably be good to get that done now, and sign in the appropriate name, address box, and, you know, that is probably the order in which everyone will speak. So anybody that does wish to address the board, please feel free to come up and do that now before we start proceeding any further. So, this is for the FEMA amendment. I don't know that anyone's going to want that one. This is for the and I think while people are signing in, I can do this. I'm going to explain hearing procedure and read the procedure and order of business to everyone here, and like a lot of people are signing up. So that's not going to take much time. The chair shall explain the hearing procedure and state the rules of conduct. 1, address all questions and comments to the chair. Parties will not address each other directly. 2, identify yourself before you speak and do not engage in side conversations. The chair shall read the text of the notice and explain the hearing procedure. That we've already done. It is suggested that the subject matter be divided into manageable segments, an amendment, a group of related amendments, a paragraph, or a page. The chair or designated board member shall read the segment aloud. If everyone in attendance has access to a printed copy of the matter under discussion, it may be summarized instead of being read aloud. Because there is a printed copy, I'm not going to read the text of either amendment. They're both self-explanatory, and I'm sure most people here are already pretty familiar with that. The chair or designated member shall state the rationale for the amendment, paragraph, or regulation, and the chair shall invite comment from the public. When there is no more comment from the public, the chair shall close the public comment and proceed to the next segment. All members of the public have a right to be heard within the time allowed. If there is insufficient time, the hearing shall be continued to a date, time, and place is determined and announced. After the review of the document is complete, the chair shall declare the hearing closed. The board shall deliberate to see whether it wants to incorporate the public comments or adopt the document or amendments. We will not be doing that deliberation this evening, and it looks like we're going to have a bit of time spent here tonight on public comments. So the board may vote to adopt the document or amendments in whole or in part. When zoning ordinance amendments are under consideration, the board shall vote whether to place each amendment on the town meeting ballot. If the amendment is approved, the planning board will write the question for the town meeting ballot immediately following the public hearing, and then it will be sent to the town council for review. Thank you for bearing with that. I already explained the purpose of this floodplain development management ordinance. Everybody here, are there any questions about that from anyone? I can't imagine anyone being against this. The planning board is going to recommend this be voted for at the town meeting. No comments. Okay, I am going to declare that public hearing closed. There are no comments from the public.
Chair,
Yes.
can I make a comment?
Do we,
Can I make a comment?
on this particular one?
Yeah, the FEMA.
Yes, you may. We are not closing I will rescind that.
Okay, I tried to catch in there before you.
I didn't see it. John, go ahead.
He needs to sign the public comment.
Perfect timing.
He needs to sign that.
Yeah, you have to sign this, by the way. If you want to speak, you have to sign in our public comments. Wait, you can make the comment, then come to sign.
You mentioned, well, just a clarification, you mentioned Tucker Road, I think you meant Piney Road.
Yeah, yes, I'm sorry.
Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
I just,
Okay. I beg your pardon.
I don't have a copy of this. I didn't know they were available.
Right here, Martha. They're all, the copies are all up here. I'll explain it one more time. The items that are lined through are items that FEMA is requiring us to remove from our ordinance because they're no longer valid, and that the items that are highlighted, FEMA is requiring us to add to our ordinance in order for them to make us compliant with FEMA directives, which allows the federal government floodplain insurance to take over for anybody that's victimized by flood. For instance, I can't get insurance through normal insurance companies because they're in the floodplain. Well, this thing is pretty much a housekeeping issue for FEMA and for us as well. Anyone else before I close the public hearing on the FEMA regulations? We'll have Martha sign later. Okay. We're going to convene the meeting now for the citizens warrant article. And we're going to dispense with the roll call since it was already done. And we're also going to dispense with the reading of the order of business. One more thing. I must read the text of the notice. I should have read the text of the first notice. I beg your pardon. That was a mistake on my part. I'm going to do that at the moment. Public hearing will be held in the Town of Office Building, 267 Wentworth Road, Brookfield, New Hampshire, on January 7, 2013, concerning a citizen's proposal for a warrant article. The public hearing will commence at the close of another public hearing scheduled at 6:30 p.m. The following justification is submitted for proposing the amending of Article 2 and adding Appendix F. The purpose of this article is to allow, in addition to those uses permitted in the residential agricultural zone, a recreational resort campground use, and to provide access by residents of the Town of Brookfield, New Hampshire, to Kingswood Lake at a to-be designated area within the approved recreational resort campground in a manner that minimizes any negative impact to the environment or the historic residential agricultural character of the community as outlined in the master plan. Anyone needing assistance to attend this meeting, for further information, contact the Planning Board Administrative Assistant. The proposed changes are available for inspection at the Brookfield Town offices in the Planning Board room. The town offices are open Monday, 1 to 8 p.m., Tuesday, 8:30 to 1 p.m., Wednesday, 2 to 6 p.m., Thursday, 9 to 12 noon, Friday, 10 to 2 p.m. For additional available times, please contact the Planning Board Chair or the Administrative Assistant by calling the number listed. Thank you. Now, it says here the chair or designated member shall state the rationale for the amendment. Well, we as a planning board did not create this amendment, and we really, at this time, our obligation is just to conduct a public hearing, which is what we're doing here now, to hear what you folks have to say about it. So let's have at it. Whoever would like to speak and has signed in, please feel free to do so.
I'll start at the top.
Sure.
Yes, Jason Ramers?
Jason Remus, 3 Maple Street, Concord, New Hampshire.
Where do people here normally? Do I stand up?
Well, we
Or is there a place?
generally do it right from the floor.
Okay.
The acoustics are pretty terrible in here, but we do the best we can.
Great. My name is Jason Reimers. I'm an attorney with the law firm of BCM Environmental and Land Law in Concord. I've been hired and currently represent approximately 61 landowners in Brookfield, and these include several abutters to the proposed parcels that are going to be rezoned. My clients opposed the request to amend the zoning ordinance to create the recreational resort campground zone. Instead of hearing from all 61 of my clients, I've just got some remarks that I'd like to make on their behalf. My first point that I'd like to make is that the proposed amendment is illegal spot zoning. The resort campground zoning amendment represents a classic example of spot zoning, which the New Hampshire Supreme Court has long and consistently held to be illegal. Pursuant to RSA 674-16, a zoning amendment can only be justified for the purpose of promoting the health, safety, or general welfare of the community. The Supreme Court considers several elements when determining whether a zoning amendment is lawful. The most determinative question that the court asks in interpreting the statute is whether the parcel is, quote, being singled out for treatment unjustifiably differing from that of similar surrounding land, thereby creating an island having no relevant differences from its neighbors. The amendment at issue tonight seeks to create just such an island of the proposed to be rezoned parcels, despite the parcels having no relevant differences from their neighbors. If the resort campground were developed, it would significantly differ from the surrounding properties. There are no other commercial uses or campgrounds in the area. Other than to financially benefit the owner-developer, there's no justification to create a campground island amidst its residential neighbors. So consideration of the Supreme Court's most determinative element leads to the conclusion that passage of the proposed amendment would constitute spot zoning. It is also proposed that only one owner's land will be rezoned, and this was an important factor in one particular case that the court decided in which they did find spot zoning. The proposed amendment is also spot zoning because it conflicts with the zoning ordinance and the master plan. According to the Supreme Court again, zoning regulations, quote, must be made in accordance with a comprehensive plan so that zoning is by districts and not by individual pieces of property. The proposed amendment is not in accordance with either the master plan or the zoning ordinance. The amendment is in direct conflict with the zoning ordinance, which has an explicit restriction on funnel development on the shorefront. The zoning ordinance requires 50 feet of shoreline per person in order for there to be access to the water body. And according to the zoning ordinance, this restriction was specifically put in place to restrict funnel development. Not only is the amendment not in accordance with the zoning ordinance, it seeks exactly what, this is not a situation where the zoning ordinance is silent as to a particular topic. Rather, the funnel development was considered at the time the zoning ordinance was drafted. It was specifically addressed and prohibited through the zoning ordinance. The amendment is also not in accordance with the master plan. The master plan for Brookfield does not allow campgrounds in any area of Brookfield, not even in the recreational area. The master plan and zoning ordinance also do not contemplate anything but residential development and agricultural activities in the residential agricultural zone, the zone to which these parcels belong. The master plan and zoning ordinance do not contemplate the development of a commercial enterprise outside the home. There's not even a commercial zone in Brookfield. The resort campground is a commercial enterprise. A commercial enterprise consisting of hundreds of cabins and cottages is in direct conflict with the master plan and zoning ordinance. The master plan classifies the area around Kingswood Lake as a shoreland protection area in which only single-family dwellings and agricultural uses will be permitted. The proposed resort campground zone is in direct conflict with this language regarding the shoreland protection area. Also, a commercial development the size of the resort campground is not in accordance with several of the policy goals set forth in the master plan, including the following: protect ground and surface water resources from land use and development that would degrade the quality and quantity of these resources, and the other policy goal of discourage commercial development that is inconsistent with the town's rural agricultural character. Based on its direct conflict with numerous provisions of both the zoning ordinance and master plan, the proposed amendment would likely be deemed by the court to be illegal spot zoning. Passage of the amendment, if it did happen, would be challenged in court. As I said, the amendment is a clear example of spot zoning. Spot zoning is illegal, and my clients will challenge the zoning amendment if it is passed. The Supreme Court has also stated that, quote, adjoining property owners in the district are entitled to rely on the rule that a classification once made will not be changed unless the change is required for public good. The town could avoid spending tens of thousands of dollars unsuccessfully defending illegal spot zoning if the board recommends against this amendment and the voters heed their advice. Although the town meeting vote is determinative, whether the board recommends or does not recommend the amendment will be shown on the ballot at town meeting. That's why I urge the board to seek the advice of town council if needed and to vote not to recommend the amendment. Now, even if the amendment were legal, my clients don't think it's a good idea. The language of the amendment raises many unanswered questions and may have unintended and unwanted consequences. To the extent that it is believed that a resort campground would increase property tax revenue, this is uncertain. First, the cottages are not single-family homes that can be taxed as such. Second, it is unclear how the town will assess this commercial development. Third, it is unknown how much property tax revenue the resort campground would generate, as the assessed value of the unknown facility is speculative at best. Fourth, the resort campground would reduce the property values of surrounding properties, leading to a reduction in property taxes collected from those properties, which currently contribute significantly to the tax base. Fifth, increased use will require an increase in police, fire, and ambulance services, as well as an increase in road maintenance services because the access roads are narrow dirt roads. In total, any possible increase in tax revenue, which is unsure in itself, may be offset by decreases in taxes collected by surrounding properties and by increased costs associated with providing services. Also, the proposed amendment has no guarantee of beach access. The proposed amendment does not give land to the town, establish a town beach, or guarantee public access. It does not even require the landowner to provide beach access to town residents. Rather, public access to Kingswood Lake under the amendment would simply be a permitted use. Just as having a barn in a permitted is a permitted use in the residential agricultural zone and does not obligate the owner to actually build a barn, the landowner of the resort campground would not be required to allow or provide public beach access on his property. If this amendment is passed, the landowner or any future owner of that land may legally decline to provide public access. The amendment also does not address whether any permitted beach access would be free or for a fee. It is possible that access may be granted to non-residents from out of town or out of state for a fee. This amendment would not establish a town beach or even a legal right of access. It merely permits the owner to allow public access to the extent and with the conditions he may choose. A town should not rely on a current owner's unenforceable, even if sincere, currently expressed intention to provide beach access. And there are a few more unknowns that I'd like to point out in this proposed amendment. Although the amendment would appear to permit only short-term lodging, i.e. camping, the language of the amendment has no such limits. There is nothing in the amendment that specifically limits the cabins from being inhabited year-round. Although the number of cabins that may be built is unknown, a conservative calculation indicates that over 1,000 cabins is possible. So the amendment provides for at least a building lot of 1,500 square feet per cabin. The entire parcel is 203 acres, generously excluding more than half of the 203 acres due to wetlands, unbuildable slope, necessary space for parking, roads, restrooms. If cabins were only built on 100 acres, the amendment would still allow up to 2,904 cabins. I'm not suggesting that 2,904 cabins would actually be built, but I think the calculation points out or it illustrates the amendment's glaring failure to limit or to disclose the number of cabins that could or would be built. Also unknown is the number of restrooms that would be required and the method by which the septic loading needs would be met. The amendment only refers to state septic rules and regulations. The amendment does not actually mention restrooms or changing facilities. Those are only mentioned in the preface to the proposed amendment. And the town is ill-prepared to regulate these details through the site plan review process, as Brookfield's site plan review regulations are not adequate because campgrounds are not allowed in Brookfield. How will it be determined how many cabins per restroom, how often trash must be picked up, lighting requirements, etc.? Bear with me, I'm almost done. The planning board is a specialized board and must use its expertise and experience in deciding whether to recommend or not recommend approval of the amendment. RSA 675-4 requires that the board approve or disapprove of the passage of the amendment. And the board's approval or disapproval, as I said, will be noted on the ballot at town meeting. The board may not recommend approval or disapproval based only on the number of people who show up at the hearing who are either for or against, because the planning board are not legislative representatives of the citizens. They are members of a specialized board. Thus, to determine whether the resort campground is spot zoning or required to promote the health, safety, or the general welfare of the community, the board must use its expertise and experience as informed by tonight's comments, and also consider the master plan and zoning ordinance. The board should treat this amendment just as if the amendment was proposed by the board. If the board, based on its experience and mission, believes the amendment does promote the health, safety, or general welfare of the community, it should recommend adoption. If the board concludes that the proposed amendment does not meet that legal standard, or that it is illegal spot zoning, the board should not recommend its passage. Finally, I just want to point out that board members who signed the petition for the zoning amendment should be disqualified. Any member of the board should disqualify, this is in general, as you all know. Any member of the board should disqualify himself or herself from a matter if they have already prejudged the matter and have already decided how they're going to vote. I point you to RSA 673-14 and RSA 500A-12. The board members who signed the petition have taken a public position of support of the amendment and appear to have prejudged this matter and should disqualify themselves from the board's discussion and decision of whether the board should recommend or not recommend passage. Thank you, and thank you all.
Thank you, Attorney. Thank you, Attorney Reynolds.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Dick Peckham, you, the next guy.
I'd like Tom to speak first.
Okay, Tom?
My name is Tom Jagger, 47 Lakeford Road. I'm the chairman of the Conservation Commission here in Brookfield. We've met and discussed the proposal and put our concerns into a letter, which I think you have a copy of.
Yes.
I've got more copies here if the rest of
Point of order,
the board
Mr.
would-
Chairman. We have several microphones here on the floor. Could maybe the speakers be asked to use them?
That's only for the video camera, it's not for the audio
So we
system.
can't necessarily all of us hear what Tom's saying.
He would have
It
to stand
won't
up.
broadcast.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm on crutches. If you, I'll just speak louder rather than standing up, if that's okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. With your permission, I'd like to read the, this is a fairly short letter, just read the letter into the minutes of the meeting.
Go ahead.
This is from Conservation Commission to the Planning Board. As you prepare for Monday's public hearing related to the zoning amendment proposal, the Conservation Commission would like to raise several concerns. Much of the parcel in question is currently rated as highest ranked habitat by the New Hampshire Wildlife Action Plan, and the recently completed Lakes Region Conservation Plan identifies the parcel as a core focus area, meaning it is of exceptional significance. In addition, the land is very close to the 1,492-acre Ellis Hatch Wildlife Management Area and the 2,325-acre Moose Mountain Reservation, increasing its significance. Contiguous parcels of low-density forested land are more beneficial to wildlife than widely separated small parcels. All of these points indicate that the current RA1 zoning is appropriate. The proposed 1,500 square foot cabin sites, meaning 29 units per acre, would certainly have a detrimental effect on the environment. As you know, the Shoreland Water Quality Protection Act, RSA 483, and wetland regulations, RSA 482, will take precedence over town restrictions. But we would like to highlight that the proposed beach is not guaranteed approval by the Department of Environmental Services. Putting sand directly into the water is no longer allowed. A perched beach, meaning the sand does not touch the water, is sometimes approved depending upon slope and other criteria. In most cases, even moving existing rocks in the water is restricted. Residents expecting a beach similar to Governor Wentworth State Park will likely be disappointed. In any case, the addition of hundreds of people to the lake will have deleterious effects upon water quality and wildlife. Many residents moved here for land quality stated above. Large forested areas and low-density development enhance the appeal of Brookfield. A significant change, as proposed, would alter the reputation of our town and likely decrease the home values of all residents. Although we cannot endorse this project as proposed, the Conservation Commission would be pleased to work with the landowner in seeking grant money for a conservation easement, should it be willing to consider that option. And if you would allow me, I'd like to just elaborate on 2 points there. The cabin sites are 1,500 square foot parcels of land. And to get a better feel for what that means, I did a little math. And if you can envision in your mind a football field from the 0 yard line to the 0 yard line, that's just over an acre. That would hold 32 cabin sites, which in my mind is a very dense operation, especially considering, as mentioned earlier, that it could go for 100 acres of development there. And I just noticed as we were sitting in this room that this room is probably about 1,500 square feet. So you can kind of get in your mind what a cabin site would look like. The other point I wanted to make was a little bit more on the beach. I talked to the Department of Environmental Services Water Quality Division, Mr. Dale Kirstead today. He is the man that would receive and approve any permit request for a beach in the state of New Hampshire. He gave me a few bits of information. First of all, he would not consider anything on a grade of above 25%. He stated the state owns the lake bed. He would definitely not allow sand to be added to the water. Sand has phosphates, which generates algae blooms, and it's no longer allowed anywhere in the state. Depending on the permit, a perch beach would be possible, but would be no more than 20% of the water frontage of the lot. So I believe the water frontage is about 450 feet. 20% of that would be 90 feet. May be allowed to be cleared and a perch beach installed. And you can kind of envision in your own mind, if there are hundreds of campers and town residents all trying to use a 90-foot beach, it might be crowded. Just as he normally does residential beach permits, and residences are normally limited to 900 square foot of a perch beach and less than 10 yards of sand. So they're very restrictive on what they allow. And he again reiterated that rocks in the water would not be allowed to be moved. They're habitats for the fish, and they, as he said several times, the state owns the lake bed, and we're very protective of it. So that's all I wanted to say. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Dick?
I'll stand up so you can see me and hear me. I have some charts here. Most of you are here tonight because you received a letter in the mail from a group called Friends of Brookfield Forest. I would like to ask the chairman if I can circulate these two clipboards, and if people would like to be on an email list from this group to receive more updated information about this development. Could I do that?
Yes, but after everyone has had a chance to speak, so the district, you know what, everybody, there's a couple of more speakers that signed up,
Okay.
and I would
You
have a
would let
problem.
them sign while they're listening? I'm just trying to save time in the hearing.
Well, I don't think it's going to take too much time. There's only two more folks that want to.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, that's somebody who won't be distracted. Carol? Carolyn?
No, I'm not through. I'm not through.
Oh, sorry, Dick.
I have the floor.
You got the floor. I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
I'm not giving up the floor.
Forgive me.
I'm also on the Conservation Commission, and I just wanted to reinforce what Tom has presented. Okay. This is a chart put out by the Lakes Region Conservation Plan. Here is Kingswood Lake. This is Brookfield. Very light green areas are areas that are slated for, as far as the Lakes Region Conservation Plan is concerned, this area is slated for, or targeted for conservation by the Lakes Region Conservation Plan. Now this is, the group that determines this is the conservation groups or conservation commissions within the towns that these lands are located in, and also the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests, as well as Moose Mountain Regional Greenways. To look at this on a different chart, which would be just the town of Brookfield, some time ago, Moose Mountain Regional Greenways and our Brookfield Conservation Commission located and marked off large parcels of land in the town, which would be priority areas in the future for conservation. The greenish areas here and here are live parcels that are already conserved. This would be the Lakes Region Conservation Society owning this land, which includes Copple Crown, and this land in here, and some of this land is fish and game property and land that's in an easement to SPINIF, or the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests. Now, the parcel in question is this parcel here. The light brown areas are, again, targeted areas by Fish and Game, which are areas that they would like to see conserved, and they are high density of wildlife and also a high occurrence of wetland. And as you can see, all around the lake is also included in that type of priority. So as far as the Conservation Commission is concerned, we feel that a better use of this land would be to be put into conservation. We certainly oppose, as Tom indicated, this project. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dick. It looks like Carolyn is next.
Carol.
Oh,
62 Wentworth Road, and the Mr. Esquire, I forget your name, I'm sorry, it's covered a lot of the questions I had, but I wanted to also just introduce some questions on the format of the actual warrant, because nobody's defined whether in New Hampshire RSAs or in the ordinances what a campground is or what a resort is. And I think that may have some consequences in the future development of that land. And I just wanted to see if the planning board has any kind of definition that they have to bring forward that would answer my questions on it. And I'm sure anybody voting for this would want to know what they're actually voting for in definition. Second question I had in the format was, as far as the history of it, I have no date of filing for the actual warrant, who received it, and I just wanted to suggest in the future a documentation trail for the warrant or any petitions that somebody might bring. I don't know if you voted on that in the future or in the past, but I wanted to bring that to your attention. Also, as far as the legality goes, my big question is, in the ordinances themselves, you have made it a non-use for lodging under the Rec Area 1 for Moose Mountain, but by carrying it forward to this new rec development, you're allowing, that's the only principal commercial business, is lodging. And another entity of legality that I wanted to ask you about is antitrust violations. You have a single entity, not a district entity, that's being granted an ordinance. And businesses may have wanted to develop other areas of the town and have been refused. And where it's a commercial entity, you know, a commercial use, I think antitrust questions might want to be answered at this point. And lastly, well, we answered that one. And I had a question on the ADU and the multifamily dwellings. They're in the ordinances, the workforce developments are in the ordinances, but the planning board is a hybrid, I think, of ADU and multifamilies. The one lot of land has all these houses, and people aren't camping on them. There's no RVs allowed in the rec area, and we don't allow RV camping anywhere in the town. And I had a question on the RVs. You have lodges or cabins that are going to be used, but people are going to bring campers too, and I didn't know you may want to look into that as well. At this point, I'm not opposed or I'm not for it. I just wanted to make sure that the voters in the town had all the information we needed to have to be able to make a really good decision whether to open up our lands to some kind of commercial developments. We've actually kept ourselves to residential and recreational limited use, and I came here to retire. I have a use that I had in mind, but I know the town we need to develop in some areas, but we want to keep it in check and keep our town the way that we have always had it. So that's all I have to say, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Oh, Dulcie Lavender.
Yeah, Dulcie Lavender, and I just have a few comments. Obviously, I think previous speakers have something to say, but firstly, one of the concerns I have as a resident, I think all of us, when we purchased our homes or inherited our homes here in town, have a certain expectation of our zoning ordinances protecting us. I mean, we've purchased homes to have a certain quality of life, certainly to protect our property values to some degree, and we're talking about a pristine, beautiful lake, limited residences on that lake. I know the town has always wanted access to the lake, and that's certainly a big carrot. But I'm thinking about the residents on the lake that have a certain expectation of the town to protect their property values and protect their quality of life. And it's not like we're just talking about, a variance or a special exception to an existing zoning ordinance. We're talking about, rather than, a single residence on a parcel, putting in potentially hundreds of cabins, and, a huge impact on that lake and a huge impact on the residents of that lake. And I just feel that as residents of this town, whether we're on the lake or not, we have a responsibility to our citizens in the town of Brookfield to protect, their homes and their way of life.
Thank you. You're next. You're next.
I'm next?
You're next.
Aren't I quick? Okay. My name is Harriet Wilson. I live on Clark Road, so I'm not a landowner that's going to be affected by this directly. But when my husband and I moved here and built our house, the zoning required 2,000 square feet of living space, excluding the garage. Is that still true?
No.
Okay. Think about it, though, that's the size of my house, not counting the garage. These lots, not the buildings, the lots are going to be 3/4 of the size of my house. That's really not very big. And I would point out that the year-round property, the year-round building that's discussed here for the campground manager is only 864 square feet, which is not even half the size of my house. And that's a year-round dwelling. I honestly cannot picture it. I can't picture it. It makes me sick to picture that kind of development anywhere in this community or any other community for that matter. But especially in a pristine area, which we've already heard about the conservation needs of that area from both Tom and Dick. And we've heard all the legal implications from Jason. We can't afford this, and we don't want it.
Thank you, Harriet. Is there anyone else here that would like to come on up and sign the paper?
My name's Dan Jewett. I live at 5 Tumbledown Dick Road. One of the big questions I don't think has been mentioned that I haven't heard tonight is the traffic. Anybody that's traveled Moose Mountain Road, Tumbledown Dick Road, understands the very limited sight distance on that road. So to me, that's a major concern that I would have, especially with the fact of having a new daughter that is driving those roads. So, and I drive those roads, and at times coming up over those hills, there's big trucks that are coming down those hills that you can't see. I live on the Dick Road, which is a 30-mile-an-hour zone, which in my opinion is way too high. You have somebody coming down that road at 30 miles an hour at that hill, and you're taking that corner to go up, and you meet an RV, good luck. And if you meet an RV with somebody who's got a box truck that owns a business up that road, heaven forbid.
Thanks, Larry. Is there anyone else that would like to speak their mind?
I just had one more comment on the noise. My house is like right in front of the ski mobile trails. Because we have a really good snow season this year, I mean, like the traffic this weekend was until 10 or 11 last night, you know, and, you know, just noise alone. And sometimes people are gonna be playing out there, you're gonna hear them all night long, and that's noises, big, big that.
Campground brings mischief. Ask anybody. Anybody that's been camping, any teenager that's been camping, I guarantee you when you were a teenager, I know when I was a teenager, 14, 13 years old, and mom and dad went to bed, I went out having fun. So, and remember, we're all in that area. You don't have to be next door.
Well, would anyone else like to say anything?
Please sign it.
Will you please sign it? Yes.
I don't.
Hi, Diana. How are you?
We'll take it.
You can just put, and this is.
I just want to make one very, very quick comment, and that is, I think probably most everybody came here today and tonight anticipating that the developer of this property was going to be here to answer some questions. I think that's probably what most people wanted, and I just want to stress my disappointment in this individual person who I do know personally. He said to me the other day, well, I probably won't even show up for the meeting. And I thought he was kidding, truly, honestly, I did. I didn't think for sure. Hey, he's here, okay, cool. But that was my only comment.
What's the owner's name?
Charles Robbins, Chuck Robbins, yes, and family. Anyone else?
Would you like me to address all the people who came out of there tonight?
All you have to come on up and
If you like to sign in.
sign it and have a go.
That was last. You're supposed to print it.
Good enough.
Yeah, well,
Yes, I proposed this basically, I've looked at the 1990, 2001, and 2006 master plan, and repeatedly the #1 requested things by your other citizens who may not live on the lake has been access to the lake. I can answer many of these questions. I heard many tonight. I don't really know where to start. I mean, conservation groups have spoken to me over the years. It would be hard to just give the land away. I'm not in that position. And they've never really spent it, and other groups have never been able to come up with the money, or any money, without even discussing an amount. So that's been difficult. The optimistic numbers I've heard tonight are unrealistic. With a 25% slope, wetland setbacks, I've increased the 40-foot side setback to 50, 75 from the shore. All these things are gonna really be a fraction of the numbers I've heard. So many of the things I've heard are concerns that I get. I've talked to Dale many times. I've done many projects in New Hampshire at the Shoreline Protection DES, so I know Dale well. I spoke to Dale at length about this, the water board, the septic board, all the site-specific, which is like a town planning board meeting, only it's at state level. You have to do a much more intense one there than you do at town. So, I mean, there's many hoops. Trust your planning board. They're going to hold my feet to the fire. They're going to put conditions on this. They don't want to see 300 of these here, but they want the townspeople to have access to the lake. I've always, in 15 years that I've owned it, allowed everybody to use hunting, four-wheelers. People, the locals, the neighbors have four-wheeled my property. Most people would never allow that. Snowmobile trails. I work with the board and the ski snowmobile club to keep that going. So, I mean, I did the hospital building, I did the urban gas station. Those are my projects. I'm conscious of the environment. Most homeowners are going to put sand in the lake. They're going to cut trees in front of their property. I have to follow every rule because I deal with these state officials my whole life. I don't get the cheat. So you're not going to have a drainage problem with me. I'm not going to put in bad driveways, build in illegal wetlands. That's not me. So you're going to get a good project, and the rest of the citizens are gonna get to go swimming in the lake. But it is not Cloud Beach, I agree. You're gonna have to walk down, it's gonna be effort to get there, but it's still gonna be access to the lake in a minimal way. There'll be parking and there will be a changing facility. But I'll work with the planning board under their guidance and the state guidance to make sure it's a clean, neat, beautiful cottage project. I'm not proposing RV parking spots. I'm not proposing anything. 1,500 square feet may sound small, 600 is the state rule under RSA 216. So 400 is 20 by 20, and they are close, so that you're using a minimal amount of that land. You're not using, if you can, you're better off to get most of them on 2 or 3 acres. Doesn't that make more sense? You'll have much more open space. The people who pay for these cottages are gonna have trails to go on, they'll be able to hike, fish, kayak, not putting a boat ramp in. So, I hope I hit some of the points. There were a lot of them. Thank you very much. Anybody have any
Thank you.
questions? Be glad to answer them.
I have a question.
Sure.
Silence, please.
Pardon me, if you do have a question, you address the chair with that question and we'll field it to Mr. Robbins.
Oh, okay, then I'll.
But you'd also need to sign in if you're going to speak.
No,
Go ahead, would you?
no, I'll wait.
Oh, please, we'd like to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, we want to hear your question.
I'll hold it.
Okay, yes. Yeah, you're fine.
I just have a comment, and with all due respect to Mr. Robbins and his intent, I don't think that we should question that, but I think what we do need to pay attention to is we're talking about a zoning amendment, and that has nothing to do with the current owner's intent for building. You know, as soon as if we pass this and the property is sold, it's a different owner and you know, perhaps a different intent. And I think we need to pay close attention to what the zoning amendment or zoning ordinance will allow on that property. You know, because you know, over time things change, and this is going to be what's going to govern what can and can't happen there.
Thank you.
My name is Jason McKenna. I live at 13 Curry's Way. I've been living around Lake Winnipesaukee all my life. I started off on the south side. And as it developed, I started moving myself around the lake. This has been the nicest side of the lake. I'm here because of the town, what it has to offer, and how quiet it is. Simple as that. I remember Meredith 20 years ago, it was quiet. Had a good time, it was a great spot to raise kids. Then you got all these hotels that popped up in there. The traffic is unbelievable, you know. They're trying to put more lights in, they gotta put a rotary in. You can't even get through there during the summer without at least spending 20 minutes trying to get through the traffic, through the lights from one side of town to the other side of town. You know, one set of lights, it's in the next set of town, next town over. It sure isn't anything I want to see here. That's not why I came here. And I really am tired of moving. I'd like to be done with it. I feel like I'm being chased all the way around the lake. And I love the fact to go hunting and you know, if a lake is that important to the people in the town, throw a rock. There are lakes everywhere around us. There are beaches everywhere around us. We don't have to have beach access to this one particular lake. They're everywhere. You know, it's a 5-minute drive for us from where we live. So that's about all I got to say on the issue. Thank you.
Now's the time, we're here. Martha. Yeah, have to ask you to do it.
Where's one side?
Right here.
I would just like to say a couple of things. As many of you know, my daughter and her husband have bought property on Kingswood Lake, which was in very bad shape, and they're putting a great effort into renovating it with the thought that it will be there for their grandchildren. A permanent thing. Many of the people on the lake have been there for generations. And part of that is knowing that there is good zoning in Brookfield. And I think that everybody in Brookfield appreciates the zoning we have. A couple of years ago, we went carefully through the zoning ordinance, and I think we need to count on the zoning being enforced. And I think this proposal, while it may sound good, it changes the whole character of the town. And I would like to speak against it on behalf not only of my daughter, but of myself. I live in Governor's Road, and everybody in town who appreciates the 2-acre zoning, the quietness of this town, the attractiveness of it, and the good people who live here now. So, in addition, I would not like to think that a campground would deteriorate as the one up the road in Ossipee did, to have year-round residents and trailers and being a terrible situation for the town to deal with. So I would certainly oppose changing our current zoning to accommodate this.
Thank you.
Don't worry.
Yes, sir.
I'm Jonathan Oswald. I live at, I have a place at 14 Higgin Way. I just quickly, one thing that people haven't mentioned is water quality. They have some extent, but not specifically, two things that I'm thinking of, which we always look out for: coliform bacteria, and the other thing is milfoil. A lot more people in here with their boats, whatever, all you're doing is asking for trouble with milfoil. And we all know with Wolfville Back Bay how milfoil took over, and it's a serious problem. And the more people you have in water, of course, coliform bacteria just comes from people. So we will certainly have a bloom of that. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to voice their opinion?
I just want to ask the chairman, are you going to explain the mechanics of how these traditional areas work? I think it'd be handy for everybody here to know how that works.
Yeah, I am at some point. After everyone has finished speaking, and there are people here that are slowly coming up here and stating what their feelings are. Anyone else?
Do we have any idea what the cost is going to be to the town when we look at the police department, the fire department, the transfer station, all those increases? Because obviously the police department will be here more, the fire department will be here more. Fire permits, things along that line. Do we even have a clue what the costs are there?
Well, let me address that question in a roundabout way. In the first place, this is not authored by the planning board. This is a citizen's warrant article for the warrant. We as the planning board are obligated to do two things. One of them is to hold this hearing, and the second is to either approve or disapprove in support or not in support of this article. And that is the sum total of what our obligation is legally at this point. This is a very complicated issue. We are in no position to deliberate in a 5-minute session to decide whether we would support or not support this. We have to take into consideration everything that has been said here tonight. Absolutely, the feelings of the community are very important. Most important is whether this is good for the town or not. That's what our job is, to promote the general health, safety, and welfare of the town. We need to take some time to figure those things out. And those are the things that are involved here, many of them. That's a snap decision that requires some professional advice from some people. There are people on this board that have a certain amount of expertise in various fields that can contribute, but certainly not enough to answer all these questions. There's just no way we can do it as a board. So we have to seek advice from without. We have an attorney here that represents 61 people in the town, who's given us a packet of information that we are going to review as a planning board. I'm sure some of these subjects are covered. We don't know what it is now. We were given that tonight. So obviously we're not going to do the review, or we're not going to discuss this as a board tonight at all, because we're really not qualified at this moment to do so and make any decision whatsoever. We do have to take this up, and we have to take it up in public at our planning board meetings, which you're all welcome to attend. We need to speak to the town attorney about the legal matters that were mentioned here tonight. And that's about all I can really tell you. That's our obligation, to do the job that we were elected to do. And we fully expect to do it in an unbiased way for the good of Brookfield. So I can't really tell you any more than that. The process is that this goes, it was submitted to the selectmen, it goes on the warrant, and the people of this town will vote for it or against it. That's the way it will be done. In the event that they vote for it, then certain things will kick in. Perhaps a lawsuit. This town went through that a couple of years ago concerning the recreational zone. I'm sure you all remember that. At this point, we can't make any decision about anything up there. We would be the body that would work. Let's just say, hypothetically, that this were voted in by the town. We would be the body that would have to supervise anything that was done up there or down at the lake through the site plan review process, which would become considerably complicated and require outside professional services if something was going to be done down there, because none of us here are qualified as board members to do that type of work. There would be engineering and things like that. So whether or not we approve this, you're perfectly welcome to come to our meetings and hear just what we have to say about it in our deliberation process. And that will be, we will put this on the agenda for next Monday night. That is a planning board meeting. We will discuss it then. We're going to make some inquiries. There are legal issues here. We need to speak to the town attorney about those legal issues, because we have to be knowledgeable about what they consist of before we can make any decision. We all have our personal inclinations to whether we want this or don't want that, but it really doesn't affect the way we have to do our job. So having said all that, I don't know, Frank, if that answers your question. The process is that it goes before the town and they vote. If they vote it in, God only knows what's going to happen after that. It could be a number of things.
The only other thing was that it's going to be on the ballot. It will not be discussed at town meeting, so.
Right.
It'll be on the ballot, yes.
It's a ballot issue.
Yes, it's a ballot issue. It's not going to be voted for on the floor.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
So in that case, will the financial information that this gentleman asked for, like what it might cost to police, fire, ambulance, will that be made available to the voters before voting day?
Well, number one, that's not our obligation. We can't come up with a figure like that. Number one, you have to understand that before we can come up with a figure assessing what the consequences will be or the cost will be, we have to have a site plan and we have to approve it. And the site plan has to consist of how many units are going in. This is very, very brief and there's not much here. And I'm not going to make any other comment than that right now. But for us to attribute or assign costs to things, we have to know what's going to be done down there. We don't know.
So
all we know is there's a request to change the zoning from one thing to another. We're either going to recommend it or not recommend it, and we cannot come up with costs until there's a plan on the table that you can submit to local authorities. Say, for instance, the town of Wakefield. Are you going to charge us more for fire, refuse disposal, police? I mean, there's no way to come up with those ideas at this moment.
So in effect, the townspeople, if they vote when they go to vote on this, they're not going to have all the information they need to make a reasonable decision.
Vague on purpose.
Who would be able to, we are not in a position to be able to give them that information.
Now, I understand what you're saying, but I'm also pointing out that we have to make a decision of whether to support this or not support it based on extremely incomplete information.
Apparently.
Well, I knew what I was going to vote anyway, but that ties it.
Question. Apparently there may be some legal issues. Do you feel by next Monday's planning board meeting that you will have the answers from the town attorney?
I don't know, she may be on vacation.
No offense, but the attorneys take a long time.
But no. Can I say this about our town attorney, Laura Spector? I think she's a wonderful attorney. She's not cheap, but she's extremely responsive, and we really think, as a board, that her expertise is valuable.
Do you think there's enough time, though? For
Yeah, I think so. I mean, for us to do a complete assessment of this, I don't think you can do a complete assessment of anything like this. This is absolutely too vague for us to assess. All we can do is say, this is what it is. What is your legal opinions of this document? This is the only document we have to work with. We're going to do that, and whether we'll have an opinion of that by Monday, I
hope so.
Maybe. You know, if not, it'll be we will probably call a special meeting to deal with this instead of waiting till February's meeting, if we can get it by Monday night, because this is such a hot item. And the town wants to know, and we're not going to say, sorry, we're not going to be around till 19. Anyway.
May I distribute my sign-up sheet?
No, I'm sorry, Dick, go right ahead. I just didn't want to be impolite to any speakers, that's all.
Somebody in the back.
Make sure you got a sign-up sheet. The last three people have signed it.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chair, you have
Can you
somebody in
folks
the
that
back.
have spoken here, please come up here and sign this? Anybody that here, it really is a requirement, a statutory requirement, that you sign this paper before.
Right after you speak, right after you sign.
Right after you sign. Can I please have
No comment, please.
right, no side conversations, gentlemen here that wishes to speak? Hello, thank you.
Hello, my name's Sean Ettinger. I'm a resident in town. This is a very emotional response back and forth. But what I want to know is when are we going to get more detail? We can't talk about anything right or wrong or what's going on. We need more detail. We need them. When did we get details on this?
You're asking the gentleman back there.
Well, I think what the town really needs is more defined picture so we can talk about it instead of just emotionally, I like it, emotionally, I don't like it, it's going to ruin the town, this or that. Let's see some real facts, a real projected image that you're going to propose. That way we can really, like exactly how many houses?
Excuse me.
All the locations.
You really need to address the chair.
Oh,
that's okay.
Sorry.
Well, I just have to do it that way.
Okay.
You know, I can't
think the town, I mean, everybody has an emotion here, but...
Can I please have no side conversations during the hearing, please?
We're just playing games because we don't know what we're talking about. Let's see something defined. That's my point. I just want to see some better defined...
Would I can address the chair?
I would, sure.
That's a very detailed zoning amendment. Very detailed, more detailed than you'll find in a lot of your house. If you look at your residential, look at your residential zone. See how detailed it is compared to that. That's extremely detailed. You can't come up with any specific answers that you want more than you have to work off that basis. Then you have to go out and spend the time in the engineering to come up with the answers.
Then I haven't seen it, obviously. But how come, like, we don't know how many units?
Well, it'd probably be 100, 125,000.
Probably. That's just my point. See, what we're talking about is, we need something that's not going to change from one meeting to the next. That's all I'm getting at. I just want to see something defined that won't change.
That has to go through with it.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm asking for. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Can I say something more about this? I mean, I don't know if everyone here is exactly sure of what this is. This is a request to change an area in Brookfield from one zone to another zone. That's what this is. It's not asking for approval for cabins or a beach, really. It's only in the preamble and other things that describe what is possibly going to go on there. This is nothing more than a request to change the zoning of Kingswood Lake, that area, that piece of property, from one thing to another. If you read it as such, basically that's what your decision will be about, and that's what the board is going to have to decide before we recommend one way or the other. And all of these things are going to be factored into that, but that's pretty much what we're doing here, is changing a piece of land from one zone to another. That's what is being done here, or requested of the town of Brookfield in the vote at the meeting.
If the zoning gets changed, does that mean I can sprinkle houses all the way down?
Would you please sign the sheet?
Yes, Simon, please, if you want to speak and ask a question, that's the way we have to do it. We're in no position to grant or anything at this particular meeting. All we can do is tell you, you are the ones that are going to vote on this next March. We vote too in the fact that we each have a vote, but it'll be the people of the town that determine whether or not this thing flies or doesn't fly. And we can't give anybody permission to do anything.
I realize it's just a zoning request, that's all it is.
Yep.
And my question related to just that too, because if you allow that funnel type.
We're not going to allow it.
Well, I'm just saying if
you're going to allow it or disallow it.
Right, but I mean, you are the board though, right?
Well, we'll be responsible for if it gets allowed and somehow something gets done down there, then we would be the body that is responsible for making sure that everything that gets done legally, above board, according to engineered specifications and all that business. If something were to come to pass down there, this is the board that would make sure it gets done properly. We're not saying we support it or don't support it at this moment.
Right, I understand that, but let's say you do approve it.
Okay.
It does get voted in.
Okay.
Now, does that mean everybody who's got long driveways on that side of the lake can actually sprinkle houses and cottages all the way down the driveway? I mean, you're opening up a can of worms here.
Only the one owner.
Yeah, only the one owner. We're not opening up the can of worms.
Well, I'm just saying that I could request a change in zoning.
Yes, you could.
Well, I'm just saying then you're opening up a can of worms if this happens.
Well, the town would be maybe open. I'm not going to say that.
Right, well, okay, all right. That's the point I want to make.
Yes.
If this
Haber.
the board decides not to go against this.
Would you sign in?
Will it even be on the?
Yes, it has to.
Yes, it has to be on, if this is a citizen's warrant article. It has been submitted in the proper legal way to the town of Brookfield through the selectmen to be on the ballot. And it will be there.
Okay.
In March?
Yes.
Yes.
It can't even be rescinded at this point.
Okay, I'm just curious.
So, it will be there. We will make a statement after we find out what we have to find out. We're certainly not going to do it here this evening. Yes?
Can I point out that although you're absolutely correct that this is talking about changing the zoning of one particular area of the community from one use to another, as I read this thing that you handed out today, that change includes such things as lot sizes of 1,500 square feet and a permanent residence and/or office of 864 feet. So it's not quite as benign as you made that sound.
No, I'm not making it sound like anything. I'm not making it sound like
benign
anything.
as it sounded to me that you were.
Okay, I'm telling you that this is a vote, you need to read this yourself. We're going to seek legal counsel. Evidently 61 of you already have. And it's a good thing. We have no position on this at this moment, for or against, as a board. We are holding this hearing,
Except for those of you that signed the petition.
Well,
is there a list of people that signed the petition? Just curious. That's accessible.
Yes, there is.
It's on the website.
Yes, there is. It's all open for public record.
Please do.
Okay. Just asking, thank you.
I personally, as chairman of the board, did not sign it. And I will tell you that I did not sign it, I'm chairman of this board, and I'm taking no stand on it whatsoever. I'm gonna run this the way it needs to be run. Anybody else? Martha, you've already signed up? Go ahead.
I just have a question. We already have a recreation zone, and we went through a lot of trouble to decide what were the permitted uses. If this new piece of property is also called a recreation zone, wouldn't those uses also apply to it, rather than all of these specialized other things that are asked?
Oh, you're asking me a legal question now, I'm not a lawyer. To be perfectly honest with you, if this becomes defined as recreation zone, which is the same recreation zone that we have on Moose Mountain, then probably all the things that are permitted or prohibited up there would, again, be probably, please don't take this to court, but probably yes, except I don't think skiing and snowboarding will be allowed at Kingswood Lake.
Yes, but in other words, the request is for that kind of zone.
It's not.
As opposed to residential.
Well,
Gary, this very specifically applies to 3 lots. This is changing the zoning on exactly 3 lots.
Right.
Does not affect the Rec 1 zone.
No.
Even though it has the word recreation in it, it doesn't, it only affects those specific lots.
Yes, I understand that, but there's a legal question as to whether it would be a rec zone as well. And if it is a rec zone, her question was, would it be subject to the same permitted and conditional uses that the other rec zone is? And that's not a question I'm able to answer here because I don't have the legal expertise.
Both zones are very specifically outlined as far as what area they cover.
Well, this isn't even a zone yet, but.
So it would be a third kind of zone.
Perhaps. It's a legal question I'm not prepared to answer.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, obviously, everybody here is on one side of the issue. I just want people to be aware. It only took about 6 or 7 hours to get 37 registered voters to sign. And if we had spent serious time doing it, I think you'd see there's a lot of people who are in favor of it. They all got a copy of it. So I just want the board to be aware that, and I'm sure there was effort doing this. You've done it before, so. I mean, I would like people to research the voting bar because I think there's a lot in town that do want access to the master zone and repeat it over the last 22 years. Many residents have stated, if you read the 1906 master plan, time after time, it's the #1 issue residents bring up, they want access to voting. And it is state property. Not all of us who own on these like own that way. The residents of the state own that way. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Rick, yes, sir.
Gary? I beg to differ, Chuck, with what you said. And Frank was on the committee at the same time. We put out a questionnaire to all the voters and all the residents in this town when we upgraded our master plan. And while many people did talk about beach access or lake access, the main thing was don't change the character of the town.
What did they say?
I can't remember any form coming back, any questionnaire coming back that stated otherwise. Keep everything the way it is. And that's what we're trying to do. That's why I oppose it.
Terry. Sign up?
You and I talked.
Would you sign up? We have to do it. It's one of those things, you know?
It's the law.
Thank you. Thank you.
You and I talked 5 years ago, 4 years ago. We talked about beach access. And that there's this state regulation or something that all water, all lakes have to have public access. And you and I had talked about, I think there was something brought up about the power company owning a piece of land or something like that. And I don't know, but we also talked about people who own property on the lake. You know, they have a nice quiet little life there, and we got all these, no offense to anybody, but all these assholes that come up here every weekend with their speedboats and run around the lake at 100 miles an hour. What is that going to do to the people that live on the lake? That kind of thing. But, and I don't live on the lake, and I can feel less if there's somebody who speeds over it. Think about the people that do live there.
The point, although, what is the, I don't think they're gonna offer anything like that, but I don't know. Okay.
I'm new, I'm not emotionally involved. I don't have my glasses on, so good luck.
Which one, both ups are far away.
Oh, I need both, actually.
I have 3 different prescriptions here, which one?
But this is doing just fine for this. I'm Judy Lewis, and I moved here in September, and we had friends that moved also up this way. I lived on water in East Kingston, on Powell Pond, and I'm kind of where you people were now, where we did have public access, but I can't tell you how much money we spent trying to get rid of milfoil. I hate the jet skis. I had a quiet place. I had over 400-foot frontage. So when you try to 400-foot front beach with public access, that's what I own. So I would have to say, I didn't move here. I can go someplace else to put my feet in the water. So quite honestly, I'd be okay. I just want to say that. Welcome.
Just one final thing, Chairman. This is the 1990, and this is the community facilities and recreation section of your original master plan. It gets repeated in 01 and 06, the same thing. And it says the largest number of poor ratings by the townspeople were for the lack of access to the lake. So this has been running through 22 years. And if you take the time, look at the 90 book, the 01, the 06, and the public comment, you'll see it over and over again at the end of each. So I just wanted to at least finish that point.
Mr. Chair,
Excuse me?
are we going to have member comments after this, or if need be, I'll sign it?
Member comments?
At the end of this?
I suppose you're welcome to comment if you like. You're the deliberating body, though. No, we're not deliberating. We're not deliberating. Nope.
I don't need glasses, thank you very much. Okay, I'll step over here.
My name is Jim Freeman, 553 Wentworth Road, Storm Road here. A couple things I'd like to comment. Number one, this is not a typical zoning request. This is bypass both the zoning and planning boards. Oh, I'm sorry. This is not a typical zoning request. This zoning request has bypassed both the zoning boards and the planning boards, and has gone by petition warrant. Carol, I do believe that you were right on wanting to have a proper paper trail, but the request goes directly to the Board of Selectmen. I would advise you to bring it to them and voice your opinion on it. I, for one, as a resident, believe this would definitely deteriorate our aspects of what we want for a community. And if any of you are welcome to come into the voting booth with me, I will be voting against this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. You may not recuse yourself from deliberations. Yes. John, did you sign up?
No, he hasn't.
You gotta do it. I hate to be a bugaboo about it, but I can't say one guy does and another person doesn't.
actually, there is an access to the lake.
Yes, sir.
You go down the end of Camp Road, there's a right-of-way, goes right to the lake.
Yes,
Right
sir.
between my grandfather's camp that used to be there and the camp next door. There's a right-of-way, it goes right to the lake.
I go fishing there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I had a question on definition. Mr. Robbins still here? Can he answer why you use terms campgrounds and resorts? Can you ask Mr. Robbins what definition you use for campgrounds and resorts? I work for resorts, I mean, the 62 resorts, timeshares, and I mean, they are huge. Now, if you're going to use the term resorts, be careful, and I want to know what his definition is before I vote.
I think we're talking about the first line of the, add new section D in Article 2 to create a recreational resort campground. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, that's the subject, right?
Yes.
Warrant subject.
Would you like his definition of it, or the Webster's definition, which is the glossary of terms for the Library of Congress and the Bar Association? I don't know what you're asking.
RSAs don't have a, they repealed the definition of both, 1991. And I want to know what you're using.
I don't know.
I don't know to say, I'm using RSA 216 of the state statute, and between my lawyer and I, and extensive time we spent on it, we came up with that definition. So.
Yeah, but 216, 1 and 2 were repealed. Did they go back to public law when you defined it? I'd like to know the definitions before I vote on it.
I think that what I'm trying to do is, everybody in this room knows what I'm trying to do. I think the rest of the townspeople have an idea, the ones that I went to and got signatures from. I think we all have that gist of it. I want to put up cottages that are 20 by 20 on 1,500 square foot lots to be condensed mainly in the small area possible. Cost is crucial not to spread them all over the place. So, I mean, I don't know how I can get more definitive. I think that, as I say, compared to most zoning sections with most town zoning ordinances, that's pretty definitive. And then you have to go in front of all these boards and state officials to get the fine points, make sure you follow all those points that are in there and use the water, the sewerage, the steep slopes, the wetland, the lake setback. There's already a ton of regulation that has to fall into in order to put that there. So I'm already under it. But maybe people here, it seems like it's just willy-nilly, but it's intense. There's just an enormous amount of work to be done to make it happen.
Anyone else like to field a comment or two?
I guess my comment's kind of for the attorney. He was saying that planning board members who signed the petition can't vote on it. Is that true?
Let me tell you the mechanics of this. We are going to vote as a planning board to either approve or disapprove of this article. This is a citizens warrant article presented to selectmen to go on the ballot. We did not author this. We have one obligation here, to hold this hearing, two obligations, and then approve of the thing saying the planning board approves of this or the planning board disapproves of this. That will be worded on the ballot. When you go in there and you'll read this, and at the bottom of it will say the planning board approves of this or the planning board disapproves of this. We are not committing ourselves at this moment because this is not the time and place for us to do that anyway.
No, but that doesn't answer my question. My question was, is that town law or state law or whatever?
That's state law.
Okay, so if planning board member has signed the petition, you can't vote on it.
He'll have to recuse himself, yes.
Okay, that
He has
was
a
my question.
predisposition or predilection to,
All
yeah,
right,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Woolies?
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe that that is true, if I may speak, and I think that this gentleman who's going to vote against it should have the right to vote with all the guys.
Sir, I stepped down away from the board to voice my opinion as a resident of the town.
Well, I'm not gonna argue legal points with anybody here and now. I'm gonna find out what exactly, because we certainly have RSAs, and the town attorney will advise us, and we'll act in a legal fashion, and at this point, I won't argue with or banter anything around like that. Right there.
Am I next?
You're next.
My name's Richard Mauser. I live on 60 Governance Road. I've been in this town. My family's been here for 4 generations. And I've lived here for 33 years. I've raised 2 children in this town. And I've always loved the quiet little town we have here. And I'm concerned that something like this sets a new precedent in this town. And I don't know what you say to the next developer who comes along and says, I'd like to take this parcel and put it in final development. We've all driven around New Hampshire, we've all seen these little lakes change over time. My in-laws have a place on Winnipesaukee. It used to be really quiet there until people started putting in a little final development on a cove. The cove is destroyed. Time after time, we've seen these small bodies of water change. And often something that sounds kind of innocuous, let's have a little funnel development. Well, it funnels a lot of things into a very small area. So again, I just don't know what we say. We set this precedent, and the next person that comes along and wants to do the same thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I think we've exceeded the halfway point. You feel free to come up here. Well, hearing no one else, see no hands up, I would like to thank you all for coming here and participating in this. It's been informative. And seeing no other hands, I'm going to close the hearing at this point. And the planning board will then, at another time, we have a legal question. I have a member of the planning board, ex officio, back there who has his hand up. Before I close the hearing, we'll certainly.
You need to continue this, court, you need to continue the deliberations, don't close the meeting. Because once you close the public hearings, you need to continue to do deliberations at the next planning board meeting.
You have to speak up.
You need to continue this meeting to the next planning board meeting in order to continue the deliberations period. You can't close this meeting out completely. That's all I was trying to say.
I don't think that we have to deliberate at the hearing at all. This is a public hearing. This is not a planning board meeting. We do not have to deliberate at the hearing. I think we only have to deliberate at an open planning board meeting. We have to make no decisions here about anything at this point because we need more information ourselves, and I'm not going to leave this hearing open.
The public hearing portion will not be open.
No, the hearing is going to close. That's what I just said. That's all this is. That's all this is, a hearing. I'm closing the hearing. There has been no planning board meeting here tonight. So we're not going to continue any meeting that hasn't ever been convened. I will say this, we are going to have a planning board meeting immediately following this And we will not do any deliberating whatsoever on what was done here tonight. It'll have nothing to do with this issue. We have other planning board business to deal with that we're trying to get done, and we're gonna do it because we're all together here together. We don't wanna call another meeting.
You didn't notice it.
Yes, we did.
Notice?
Yes, George, did we notice it?
Yes. Where was it noticed? As far as the next planning board meeting tonight.
Did you get to it?
I did not, I'm sorry.
Yes,
it's on the, yes.
It's in Stone, it's at the corner.
It's listed on the bulletin board.
And you're gonna have another meeting tonight?
Yes.
The agenda is
I asked him, George, to do it. If he didn't, I cast no aspersions. He's an excellent administrative assistant.
the agenda is.
The hearing is closed, thank you.